Hey, this is Matt. Once again, welcome back to the videos. Another paid request, this time for Gia. Thank you so much for that. For those interested in requesting any type of videos, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And Gia wanted me to do another comparison video. The Terminator versus Terminator Genisys. Which, I mean, this is easily the original Terminator, hands down, every step of the way. I mean, one's directed by James Cameron of Aliens and The Abyss, and the other's directed by the guy who did Thor: The Dark World. I think it was the same guy. Was it Alan Taylor? That kind of says it all. I mean, in The Terminator, Arnold is a scary, intense killing machine. In Genisys, he is Pops. That's his name, Pops. And there's literally a point. Just compare the two police station sequences. In the first film, he's massacring a whole police station, intense horror atmosphere, Brad Fidel score, blowing away all these police officers. Then you look at this Genisys, they get arrested and Arnold is smiling throughout the mudshot while Bad Boys What You Gonna Do is playing on the fucking soundtrack. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Like, seriously. Seriously. The first one actually felt like a horror film, slasher film. Genisys, I don't know what the hell it was trying to be. I really don't. The first one, you had Michael Biehn as Kyle Reese, who had that intense screen presence. Jai Courtney doesn't. He just doesn't have that presence. He doesn't have that charisma. Maybe if used the right way, like he was fine as, I guess, the boomerang guy in Suicide Squad, but in other attributes, not so much. Lynn Hamilton had that natural, I was going to say every man, but seemed like a lady you would see playing, you would see her as a waitress. You would see her in any restaurant in any city. It felt like someone, it looked like someone, it acted like someone that you would see. But at the same time, you could believe her strength when you get to the end of the film and you're Terminated and crush the shit out of the Terminator. Here, you have the lady from Game of Thrones, because the director worked on some Game of Thrones episodes, that seemed smaller, seemed more diminutive, seemed trying to be tough and macho, but I didn't buy it at all. Just didn't quite work, didn't have quite the charisma, didn't quite the, feel like a natural in terms of body language, acting. I just didn't do much for me. Effects. Yes, when Arnold's character is taking the eyeball out and you have that shot that's a bit stiff. He's moving stiffly in front of the mirror until he puts the sunglasses back on, and then it's the real Arnold and not the puppet. But other bits of the practical Terminator, less is more approach. It made it much more of this scary horror feel. The one shot of Arnold in slow motion punching a hole right through the windshield has more impact than having all of the bigger action scenes in Genisys, whether it be, what was the scene on the, like a bridge, or, I barely remember the fucking action scenes. the John Connor being now a villain because he's been turned, and he's like the, what the fuck do you call the nanomachines. You throw as many money, budget, special effects into it, that doesn't make it a better movie. It just feels more phony. It just feels more glossy. While the Terminator felt down and dirty and grim. And the score, like Brad Fiedel did a wonderful job on the score. The only bits you remember of the score is when it references bits of the original Terminator themes. Is there any new pieces of music that you remember from Genisys? Not really. And Terminator Genisys just tried to, at times, be nostalgic because you remember the first film? Well, now we're going to redo the first film. It's like doing a remake, but not doing a remake. Because now the time's been altered. So it's a remake, but then we could do our own thing. So he goes back, and you have the bit with him taking the shoes, and blah, blah, blah. But this time, it's a T-1000. And this time, now Sarah Connor's the one that says, "Come with me if you want to live." While in the first one, it was reversed. Now is older Arnold fighting the younger Arnold, and that CGI didn't look that great. And it had more. That's another thing. The first Terminator was not insulting to the viewer and to the audience. Genisys, if you're a fan of the first film, it's insulting that the killing machine that made such an impact and helped start Arnold's career, that and Conan started Arnold's career in films, has been downgraded to Arnold fighting him and then Sarah Connor shooting him in one go and destroying it in one bullet. Then it comes back only to get destroyed again like a punk ass bitch. I'm sitting there going, this is really, like, do you not see how this is kind of you're downgrading the first Terminator? Like, he was such a pansy ass pussy that he got killed not once but twice within the span of like 15 fucking minutes. He got killed with one shot, one thing. Then he gets brought back with T-1000 bit of business and still gets completely fucked up and done. And that CGI in Genisys of the T-800s, I will gladly take the damn stop motion stuff at the end of the first movie. Does it still feel there's a bit of physicality to it? Yes, it's not the smoothest of movements, but the whole body, because it's still a real thing being maneuvered, while here it's a CGI thing. So while maybe the CGI in Genisys looks a bit smoother and walking, it still looks not quite there physically within the realm of the environment, while the stop motion does look, because it is something tangible that you could touch. And sometimes it's just impossible to fully recreate that 100%. At least sometimes. And also, the Terminator was an R-rated adult punch in the gut. Arnold getting the guns and Dick Miller saying, "You can't do that." Wrong. Shoots him point blank range. The way he just annihilates these police officers, including, like Lance Henriksen and the other characters. They seem like decent people. Doesn't matter. They get annihilated to shit. While here, it's fucking PG-13. Can't be too harsh. Can't be too violent. Can't be too mean. Because now we're PG-13 trying to go more for the masses. The Terminator didn't give a fuck about the masses. It just gave a fuck about being a movie. Because the Terminator, no one figured, okay, there's going to be a movie that we got to make it appeal and get $100 million. But with these newer Terminator films, they did to such a big budget, such a huge bits of marketing, special effects budgets, time being put into it, that we need to appeal to as broad of an audience as we can, because we need to get this money back. We need to make this money back. In fact, we need to have a profit, because we want to have a franchise, we want to have a trilogy. And that's the thing, even the ending, like you looked at the ending of the Terminator, there's a finality to it. She's going off to hide in the desert. There's a storm coming. I know what you mean. Here it's there's an ending, but then before the credits or during the credits, we're gonna set up for more sequels, which never come to be anyway. So there's no fucking point in that in the first place. So that was all for naught. Even if you watch the film again, you're seeing shit that's done for naught, done for no fucking reason, because it's never going to happen anyway. There's a problem when they do these films where they think they're going to get a trilogy, or they think blah blah blah. Because you do this shit to set it up, but there's going to be no payoff because there's going to be no more movies. Because you fucked up in the movie you're making in the first place, let alone whatever the next two films would have been. And also, after Terminator 2, they didn't really have much new to say. It was pretty much just trying to remake Terminator 2. Or follow nostalgia like Genisys. Like, hey, remember the first film? We're going to go back to the first film. But then, again, we don't have awful young CGI Arnold. We don't have the Terminator taken out like a punk ass. We don't have a Sarah Connor that seems more... Sarah Connor felt more human in the first Terminator. Because she's just someone who you can relate to and just trying to enjoy their life, and they are just... You can feel bad for her just being the waitress, and the kid being a snotty little dick, put the damn mashed potatoes in her apron. It's like instantly you feel sorry for her, you get her aggravation and her fear. But it's fear, but not damsel in distress, but fearful. And then you see her progression. You see her, by the end, fighting for her survival and terminating the damn thing. Not being a victim. Showing the signs of this mother that's going to be the mother of the leader of this resistance. That she can hold up to her. In Genisys, it's just nope, from the get-go, she's a hard ass. And throughout the rest of the film, she's a hard ass. So there's not really any three-dimensional elements to her character other than she's a hard ass, and that's it. And her and Jai Courtney did not have the chemistry that Linda Hamilton and Michael Biehn had. Because Linda Hamilton and Michael Biehn, you actually bought into that love story. And when Kyle Reese is saying those lines like, I went back in time for you, Sarah, you bought it. You believed in it. And then Brad Fiddel's love theme and the way he touched up with the music, you got a bit invested in that love story. Jai Courtney and I forget her damn name now, who played Sarah Connor in Genisys. Really, it was like a lot of jokes where Arnold's saying, "You two must mate. When are you going to mate?" And that's another thing. Arnold at this point was just a selling point and a gag. That's really what Arnold became in these later Terminator films. He wasn't the intimidating killing machine or the fierce protector in Terminator 2. It was just, can we laugh at you? And hey, I remember you. You're about to hopefully sell tickets to say Arnold's in the Terminator film. Let's go see him. And then how many jokes can we write around him? Whereas they did even more of that in Dark Fate. Can't be reasoned with, can't be bargained with, can't feel pity or remorse or pain. But whatever. But the lot of the sequels just try to negate that shit and go back on that. Like Dark Fate. He feels no remorse or pity, but then he killed someone and he felt pity, and he's like, I'm going to have a family. What the fuck? And be a, not a painter, but whatever the fuck his job was in Dark Fate. I'd probably say Dark Fate is worse than Genisys, just because, I mean, Genisys did, I guess you could say, kill off John Connor, but it didn't shoot a young Edward Furlong in the face, point blank range with a shotgun. And then, we just have another savior, because you can find them as much as, you just buy another cereal, look at the bottom, or mail it in for with a proof of purchase. You get another savior in the mail. This is common as crack to a crack core. Just common shit you find saviors. You find saviors in your back pocket, along with your lint. So, fuck it. I mean, okay, like I said, music, intensity, the atmosphere of a horror film, even lines of dialogue. Fuck you, asshole. I can't think of one thing Genisys would have done that was better than in the original. I can't think of a single thing. Actors in the original are better. Atmosphere better. Direction for what James Cameron had with a low budget, better. Score, better. Action scenes, the more down and dirty, which makes it more pulled into it because you're not watching a bunch of CGI cartoon action that just, in the back of your head it's not really happening, so it just takes you out of it. Now, that's not all the way through of Genisys, to be fair. There is some practicality in action scenes, to be fair. But even those are hampered because I just don't care about what's happening with the characters or how you're trying to wipe out the timeline of the first movie or the first two movies. Like, pretty much you're saying with Genisys, Terminator 1 and 2 didn't happen because things been changed. So Terminator 1 and 2 are gone now. I don't know why you thought doing that would make people happy. If people were actually invested in iota into story or plot of this. Again, why would you think that would be... Oh, because they sent a Terminator 2 when Sarah Connor was a kid, and then that changed everything. But just... why you thought that was a good idea and why you thought people would be happy about that, I have no fucking clue. It's like we want to reboot it, but if we remake it, people would be pissed, so it's a sequel, but I don't know what the hell they were trying to do. Again, the thing I remember most in the first Terminator is either Arnold punching a hole through a windshield, or the way it's edited in that nightclub scene with Arnold with the gun, the laser slowly going towards Linda Hamilton's forehead. Kyle Reese getting the shotgun, coming back to him, the shotgun, hitting Arnold back, hitting Arnold going out of the glass. Kill me if you want to live. What I remember in Genisys is, again, Arnold and a mudshot smiling, because that's funny, because it's funny. Terminator is funny now. Terminator's a dad. Wow. Bad boys, bad boys. What you gonna do? That right there tells you how far down the toilet the franchise is gone. If nothing else shows you, I think that would be the most obvious fucking bit. I didn't mind J.T. Simmons and Genisys. There you go. That's one positive I will say. J.T. Simmons, didn't mind him in the movie. I liked him. That's pretty much it. So, with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.